Have you ever heard of a country where oil flows like water, but when it comes to real water, it doesn't flow anywhere? And what about a place in the middle of the desert that, surprisingly, needs to import sand? Now imagine a country with more than 15,000 princes. Sound absurd? Wait until you see the list of prohibitions for tourists, which will send shivers down your spine, where a simple infraction can land you in jail or worse. If you think you've seen it all, get ready. Today, Bello Mundo is going to take you to see a side of Saudi Arabia that isn't so beautiful. Number 1. Location and geographical data. Saudi Arabia is strategically located in the heart of the Middle East, occupying most of the Arabian Peninsula. With an impressive 772,000 square miles, it is the largest country in the Middle East and the 13th largest in the world. Its territory is bathed by the Red Sea to the west and the Persian Gulf to the east, offering a combination of arid and mountainous landscapes. Famous for its vast deserts, such as the Rub al-Khali, the largest continuous sand desert on the planet, Saudi Arabia also has mountain ranges, such as the Sarawat Mountains, which stretch along the Red Sea. The country shares borders with 7 countries, including Jordan, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, and Oman. With a climate as arid as you'd expect, temperatures reach scorching levels during the day, especially in summer, while at night they plummet dramatically. Despite this desert landscape, the country has an undeniable geopolitical and religious importance, being the cradle of Islam and home to the religion's 2 holiest cities, Mecca and Medina. Number 2. More oil than water. If there's one thing Saudi Arabia has plenty of, it's oil. The country is a true world power, possessing around 17% of the world's oil reserves. But here's the big contrast. While oil gushes out of the ground, water, a vital resource, is extremely scarce. Much of Saudi territory is made up of arid deserts, and the absence of fresh water sources poses a huge challenge for supplying the population and keeping the cities running. So how do they get water? The answer lies in desalination. Saudi Arabia is the world leader in seawater desalination, turning salty water into drinking water. The country has invested massively in technology and infrastructure to guarantee its water supply, despite adverse natural conditions. Number 3. A country without rivers. Now, if the scenario already seems complicated when it comes to water scarcity, imagine living in an entire country without permanent rivers. Well, that's the reality in Saudi Arabia. There isn't a single river there that flows continuously. Instead, water appears sporadically in temporary beds known as uwadis, which only appear after rare rains. These uwadis are like ghosts. They appear, bring a brief life to the arid soil, and then disappear, leaving the desert dry and inhospitable once again. And of course, they are as unpredictable as they are insufficient to sustain an entire nation. To make up for this lack of rivers, Saudi Arabia relies on underground aquifers and oases scattered across the desert. But with a growing population and ever-increasing demands, this solution is nowhere near enough. And that's exactly why there's so much investment in using seawater, which turns out to be the only way to ensure that there's water for drinking, cooking, and irrigating crops. Number 4. A country with 15,000 princes. If you thought it was curious that Saudi Arabia has no rivers, wait until you find out. The country is ruled by no less than 15,000 princes. Yes, you heard right. The Saudi monarchy is practically a factory of princes, all belonging to the influential Al Saud family. It all started with Abdulaziz ibn Saud, the founder of modern Saudi Arabia. He led a campaign to reconquer his homeland, Riyadh, and in 1932, he unified the territory under the name of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And here comes the interesting detail. Abdulaziz had 45 sons and countless daughters, with his various wives, never more than 4 at the same time as tradition dictates. The result? A gigantic dynasty that multiplied over the years, reaching thousands of descendants. Today, the thousands of grandchildren and descendants mean that the number of princes and princesses reaches absurd numbers. Although not all of these princes hold formal positions in the government, many have an immense influence on Saudi politics and the economy. This influence has not come by chance. It has been carefully consolidated over generations, thanks to strategic marriages and powerful alliances. These moves have guaranteed the Al Saud family a permanent presence in key positions within the government and in the highest spheres of power in the country, making the monarchy almost unshakable in its control of the kingdom. And when it comes to Saudi princes, the lifestyle is on another level. Luxurious mansions scattered around the world, collections of exotic cars, and private jets are part of the daily life of this elite. Social networks are full of videos of these tycoons showing off their wealth, from extravagant parties to trips on private planes. And if there's one place where the power and influence of the Saudi royal family is most visible, it's the kingdom's capital, Riyadh. Number 5. Riyadh. With its 7 million inhabitants, Riyadh is the beating heart of the country, a place where tradition and modernity meet in an impressive way. Imagine a city in the middle of the desert where futuristic skyscrapers live side by side with buildings that narrate the most important chapters of Saudi history. It was here at Masmak Fort that King Abdulaziz Al Saud began the unification of the kingdom. Remember that king we mentioned earlier, the one with the 15,000 princes? Well, it was here that he took the first step towards transforming the country into what it is today. So, as well as being a tourist attraction, the fort is a true symbol of the birth of modern Saudi Arabia. But Riyadh doesn't live by the past alone. It also looks firmly to the future. One example of this is the Kingdom Center. At 300 meters high, this skyscraper defines the city's skyline and is the icon of Saudi modernity. And if you like shopping, the gigantic malls, such as the Riyadh Gallery, are a testament to the capital's sophistication and cosmopolitan lifestyle. What makes Riyadh really fascinating is the contrast. On the one hand, age-old traditions and a deeply rooted religious culture. On the other, the pulsating modernization that stretches around every corner of the city. Number 6. Jabal Shada. But if you're tired of the urban hustle and bustle and want to explore something really different, Jabal Shada is the perfect destination. Located in the southwest of Saudi Arabia, this granite mountain looks like it came from another planet. Its imposing rock formations, mysterious caves, and ancient cave paintings offer a unique natural spectacle. Jabal Shada is not only a paradise for nature and climbing lovers, but also a haven of biodiversity. Here you can find the rare Arabian leopard, as well as trees such as acacias and wild fig trees, all adapted to the mountainous climate. And the real highlight are the caves. Many of them served as shelters for ancient peoples and still retain traces of past civilizations, with rock art depicting hunting scenes and everyday life. Some of these caves are said to hide legends about ancient treasures, fueling the mysticism that surrounds the mountain. Number 7. Tourist bans. Now that we're talking about tourism, it's good to know that although Saudi Arabia is opening up more and more to visitors, the country still follows extremely strict cultural and religious rules. Some of these prohibitions may surprise unsuspecting tourists. One of the first things to bear in mind is the dress code. Both men and women must dress modestly in public. For women, this usually means covering their arms and legs, as well as often wearing the abaya, a long, loose garment that is almost compulsory in many places. Showing affection in public is another sensitive point. Kissing and cuddling with your partner may seem normal in many countries, but here, such displays are frowned upon and can even land you in jail. And when it comes to alcohol, things get even more serious. Consumption is completely forbidden, and even trying to bring alcohol into the country can get you into serious trouble. The penalty for anyone caught with alcohol in Saudi Arabia can include imprisonment or physical punishment, such as lashes. Another point worth paying attention to: watch where you sit so you don't end up in jail. Just to give you an idea, in 2018, an Egyptian man was arrested for having breakfast with an unmarried woman in the family section of a restaurant and posting the video on social media. Although some places are relaxing this rule, it's always good to check before you sit down. And finally, a rule that cannot be ignored: never try to enter Mecca or Medina if you are not Muslim. These are Islam's holiest cities, and non-Muslims are strictly forbidden to enter. If you're caught, pray. The consequences can include a fine, immediate deportation, or whatever the judge decides, like a few lashes. Number 8. Mecca. And since we've mentioned Mecca, let's delve a little deeper into this destination. After all, we're exploring the spiritual heart of Islam. Mecca is not just a city, but the epicenter of the Islamic faith, a place that attracts millions of Muslims every year in search of an unparalleled spiritual experience. Located in the western region of Saudi Arabia, Mecca is the holy destination that every devout Muslim aims to visit at least once in their lifetime, thus fulfilling one of the 5 pillars of Islam. At the center of this holy city is the Kaaba, the iconic black cube located at the heart of the Masjid al-Haram, sacred mosque. Considered the holiest site for Muslims on the planet, the Kaaba is the point around which all the faithful turn their gaze during daily prayers. And during the Hajj, the annual holy pilgrimage, millions of Muslims from all over the world gather to perform this ritual, which for many is the pinnacle of their spiritual life. But Mecca goes beyond the Kaaba. The city is also home to Mount Arafat, the place where the Prophet Muhammad delivered his last sermon. During the Hajj, pilgrims gather on this hill for a day of prayer and reflection, seeking forgiveness and spiritual renewal. This moment is deeply moving and transforms the lives of the faithful. And if you think Mecca is all about tradition, prepare to be surprised. The holy city has been completely transformed by modernization. Today, its skyline is dominated by skyscrapers and luxury hotels. The greatest symbol of this transformation is the Abraj al-Bayt, a complex of imposing buildings that houses the world's largest 4-sided clock tower. Number 9. The world's largest airport. As well as being home to the largest contemporary royal family, the largest desert, and one of the largest oil productions, Saudi Arabia also boasts another record of grandeur: the world's largest airport in terms of surface area. King Fahd International Airport, located in Dammam, impresses with its colossal area of 780 square kilometers, the equivalent of almost the whole of New York City. Inaugurated in 1999, this airport is not only vast, but also an important gateway for pilgrims heading to Mecca, playing a crucial role in the region's religious movement. In addition to its practical function, King Fahd has a huge mosque which can accommodate up to 2,000 people and also offers a touch of luxury with an exclusive terminal for the Saudi royal family, which, let's face it, almost takes up the entire airport, don't you think? Number 10. Lack of sand. It may sound like a joke, but in Saudi Arabia, even with its vast deserts and, incidentally, the largest in the world, the country imports sand. This is because desert sand is not ideal for certain construction and industrial uses, such as concrete production. Desert sand is too fine and round, while imported sand, usually from Australia, is more angular and adheres better to cement. And here's a curious fact. Sand is used for much more than concrete. It is also essential for the production of glass, which results from the heating of its grains, and is used in water treatment plants as a filter. In addition, different types of sand are ingredients in the manufacture of detergents, cosmetics, toothpastes, solar panels, and silicon chips. In other words, our civilization is literally built on sand. Number 11. Largest camel market in the world. Since we're talking about desert and sand, we can't fail to mention the camel, the true symbol of this setting. And to continue our series of biggest, Saudi Arabia is home to the largest camel market in the world, just outside Buraida. This market is a true cultural immersion, where approximately 100,000 animals are traded every year. It becomes a meeting point for shepherds, traders, and even curious tourists, all wanting to experience more of Bedouin culture. In addition to camels, the market offers a multitude of related products, such as saddles, blankets, and traditional costumes. And if you think these animals are only used for transportation, you're wrong. In Saudi Arabia, camels are bred for their meat, milk, and even compete in traditional events, such as races and beauty contests. Now, if you're thinking of acquiring one of these majestic animals, prepare your pocket. Prices range from $80 for baby camels to a staggering $50 million for luxury camels. Number 12. Disrespect for human rights. To close this list, it is impossible to ignore a serious and worrying issue: the lack of respect for human rights in Saudi Arabia. Despite its economic progress and modernization, the country is heavily criticized by the international community for serious violations of basic rights. As an absolute monarchy, Saudi Arabia applies an extremely strict interpretation of Sharia, Islamic law, which results in severe punishments such as lashes, mutilations, and even the death penalty. Freedom of expression is practically non-existent. Political dissidents and activists are often imprisoned or silenced, and the inequality of rights between men and women remains one of the most criticized points. Although women have won some victories, such as the right to drive in 2018, they still face numerous restrictions. To marry, work, or even travel, they often need the permission of a male guardian. LGBTQ+ rights are practically non-existent in the country, with homosexuality being criminalized and, in extreme cases, punishable by death. Another alarming point is the inhumane treatment of migrant workers, who often live in slavery-like conditions. They face abuse, exhausting working hours, lack of pay, and live in precarious situations. To make matters worse, Saudi Arabia is often accused of supporting terrorist groups and committing war crimes, especially in its intervention in the conflict in Yemen, a war that resulted in thousands of deaths and one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world, tarnishing the country's image on the international stage. So, were you surprised by everything we discovered about Saudi Arabia? If you enjoyed this trip and want to explore more unbelievable places, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave your like. That way you won't miss a thing and you'll help us keep bringing you content like this. Thank you very much for watching and see you on our next adventure.